from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:02. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I am your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with Brady LePage, Chairman of the Board, Chief Engineer for today, anyway. Right, Brady?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Are you busy
chair.
doing whatever you're doing back there?
I'm hitting some buttons, turning some dials, pushing some switches here,
You know what? You are 2 minutes and 43 seconds into this, and so far we're all good, Brady.
Well, that's good. Now we just got to hope we can keep things going.
We can sustain this for the next 2 hours, right? All right. Well, we're good. I feel good about that. Don't worry about it. So Brady is covering this morning for Pete Coles, who is taking a well-deserved day off. Pete, I hope you're still sleeping and not listening to this right now. You can tune in a little bit later, maybe second hour, get a good night's sleep, which is something we would all love to have just about now. So, Brady, are you comfortable with chatting, or do you need to? Because we can go in either direction, or do you need to be paying attention to whatever you need to be paying attention to?
Why don't I just take a second to make sure I got all my ducks in a row here?
Okay, you do that.
I'm happy to do a little chit chatting because I know you've got some news here.
I have all kinds of news. I've got updates. I've got news. We have, it's June is all kinds of months. So June is Men's Health Month. And we are going to talk about that with Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, who will be joining me in about 10 minutes or so, I hope. And this is one of his favorite topics, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. June is also National Fresh Fruits and Vegetables Month. So why don't we do that? Because there's lots to talk about with the fresh fruits and veggies. I was just listening to a story on NPR on my way over here about Americans who live on the Mexican border and actually travel across the border to do their grocery shopping. Not all of it, but they like to get certain things across the border in Mexico that give them more variety. And I was surprised to learn that the dairy section and yogurt is a big deal down there. And they have lots of different kinds of fruits in their yogurts that we don't have. So here you go. Learn something new every day. So June is National Fresh Fruits and Vegetables Month. You can add color to your meals during National Fresh Fruits and Vegetables Month in June. As the peak season for many early garden crops find their way into markets, it's an excellent time to take advantage of these freshly picked fruits and vegetables. Berries and salad items come to mind first, but don't hesitate to try exotic produce too. As we head into a season where more variety is available, our families get to enjoy the benefits of early summer's bounty in vibrant color. From zucchini and tomatoes, leafy greens, onions, and avocado, each provides added fiber, protein, and vital nutrients. Whether we eat them as a snack, on a salad, or in a smoothie, it's important to have 5 servings, of fruit and vegetables per day. So 5 servings. That's a lot, but we can do that. Excuse me. How to observe. So skip the canned and frozen aisle and check out the delicious fresh fruits and vegetables coming into the grocery store, farmers markets, and even your garden every day in June. Visit a pick-your-own fruit and vegetable farm and bring home the fruits of your labor. So there are places right here in Western Massachusetts, right here in Westfield, where you can, go to the farm, pick some fruit, pick strawberry. June is a big strawberry month. You can pick strawberries and other fruits and veggies, and then purchase those. You can savor the goodness of these delicious foods. So I do want to talk. This is my perfect segue into the Westfield Farmers Market, which I think we're coming into our third week of the market this week. So the Westfield Farmers Market is open Thursdays in the afternoon on the lawn of the Episcopal Church of the Atonement, and that's located right over at 36 Court Street, right next to the Arbors of Westfield, our wonderful assisted living facility. That's so great. And they're open from noon to 5 p.m. We do ask you, if you visit the farmers market, parking is in the back of the Church of the Atonement, so please take advantage of that. Please do not park over at the Arbors. I know it's tempting to do that, but they have, some of their residents are still driving, and of course they have staff and family and friends that are coming to visit, so they need all of their parking spaces. So if you do visit the farmers market, and I encourage you to do so, park behind the Church of the Atonement. The market runs every Thursday from mid-October, from now until mid-October, rain or shine, and pretty much they will, every once in a while, they'll either close early or they'll have to close altogether if it's a really, really bad rain or thunderstorms. Obviously, they're not going to have the vendors or the participants, in danger. We don't want, that's a safety issue. But I do want to read a little blurb about the Westfield Farmers Market. They've been around since 2007. Westfield Farmers Market has been a community gathering space for residents of Westfield and surrounding towns to purchase fresh, locally grown food. The market has grown over the years to include a variety of produce, flowers, dairy products, jams and jellies, raw honey, maple products, breads, baked goods, coffee, fresh-made lemonade, and even handmade pizza. Woodworkers, textile artists, and crafters also sell handmade products, and local musicians perform live. And I believe most of those, that's through a grant through the Westfield Cultural Council. But there is live music there. They usually have two different performers, one from 12 to 2:30 and the other one from 2:30 to 5. And those are the hours of the farmers market. Shopping at Westfield Farmers Market ensures that you are purchasing the freshest food possible, and you're supporting our local agricultural producers and artisans at the same time. So that's a win-win. The Farmers Market, again, is located at the Episcopal Church of the Atonement, 36 Court Street, and again, open noon to 5 through mid-October. Now, there's another little bonus for those of you who receive SNAP benefits, which is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Beginning on July 1st, so not quite there yet, but in a couple of weeks, the monthly HIP benefit, which is the Healthy Incentives Program, will increase from $20 to $40 per month for all SNAP households. So what that means is that if you are a Massachusetts SNAP customer, you automatically have the Healthy Incentives Program, you have HIP, and you receive an instant dollar-for-dollar rebate of up to $40 each month when you use your SNAP card to buy fresh fruits and vegetables at farmers markets and farm stands. So if you're not sure how that program works with our farmers market here in Westfield, they have a special tent there. You can stop by the SNAP tent at the Westfield Farmers Market any Thursday afternoon from noon to 5, and you can get a little one-on-one tutorial on how to use your SNAP card to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, and then you automatically get that money back on your card. So it's like a little added bonus. It's actually not, and it's not even so little. It's $40 a month. That's getting up there. It used to be, I believe last year it was $20. So they've doubled. So what they're really trying to do, I think with the state and SNAP benefits and the federal government, they're really trying to encourage people to eat healthy. And one of the ways that we eat healthy is through our fresh fruits and our fresh veggies. So all good. All right. So remember, farmers market every Thursday. I love it because they are really great now about sending me their newsletter on Tuesday evening instead of on or Tuesday afternoon instead of on later on Tuesday or Wednesday morning, because I said to them, I can make announcements if you get it to me before my show on Friday morning. And I believe this, what ends up happening with the farmers market is they start out a little slower and a little quieter at the beginning of June with fewer vendors. And of course, as the summer heats up and as we really get into it, they keep adding vendors each week. And that's really based on, their farm produce and the fact that they start just producing more. So this week, I think, is the first week that Ray's Farm will be added to the farmers market for this summer. So all good there. And I would encourage you to head over there. But how are we doing back there, Brady? Are you settling in?
Yes, we're getting into a rhythm here.
You're getting into a rhythm. All right. So, Brady, today's the last day of school, right?
It is. Last day of school for everybody else. The seniors already graduated.
The seniors are done, and you are a senior. You graduated, right?
I did.
All right. So, Brady, we need to, I like to do a little deep dive into all my guests. And, of course, Pete and I have been working together for 11 years now. We just celebrated our 11-year anniversary this June. So we pretty much know everything there is to know about each other. But we know far less about you other than the fact that you just graduated as a senior. So you were a senior here at Westfield Technical Academy.
I was in the information technology program.
There you go. That's what I was going to ask you. So what is the next step for Brady LePage?
I will be starting college at WPI, Worcester Polytechnical Institute, and I'll be studying electrical and computer engineering. I was actually just there yesterday for one of the freshman year experience days or whatever they call it.
Okay.
And I got to walk the campus, meet some people, do some activities, and learn about like how classes run there. It was really nice. They did a great job. Nice. And I also am a competitive swimmer. So I'm lucky enough to get on their team there, and I've been in talks with their coach, so that'll be great too, because I think that's a great way to meet people, but also I love swimming. It's a good way to exercise, good way to keep accountable too, because I feel like when I'm busier with swimming, it kind of keeps me going with my classes and my schoolwork, because I don't have any downtime to procrastinate.
Yeah. I remember this was many years ago, Brady. I was a freshman in high school, so we're going back to the 1970s. But I remember going to we were all in the auditorium. It was like at the beginning of the school year, and they got us all down there for whatever orientation they wanted to do. It was the whole school, though. It was all, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. And I remember there was one of the coaches, I want to say it was a football coach, who, they had different people giving little speeches. And I remember him saying, it's the students who are the most involved who actually do the best academically, because they learn early on how to manage their time and how to be productive. Because I remember thinking there were all these things that I wanted to get involved with, but I thought, I was a good student, but I really had to work hard at it. Like some students, it just comes naturally, and you just kind of you read it over. It's like, yep, I got this, and not with me. Like I really had to study. So I just thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all these things, but I thought, all right, well, I'm going to start by joining like one club or one organization, whatever it was. And, by the end of my freshman year, I was totally into it, deep. And same as you, I was doing like a whole bunch of things. And I found that not having that downtime, he was right. I really had to learn how to manage my time. I mean, it was unbelievable, but I think that served me well. It certainly served me well in college. But it also served me well in my career. I mean, people who are on the other side of the employment desk and doing the hiring, love people who are organized and dedicated and accountable and responsible.
Yeah, you have to be.
You really do. You really do. If you just come kind of sauntering in whenever you feel like it, you're probably not going to get that, keep that job for very long, because we like people who are responsible. So
well, and you need the people skills too. I think that's an important thing that
it's huge.
And I know at WTA that was something that we take time even at a shop to talk about. Like you need to have what we call soft skills. Like when you have a job interview, as simple as just like making eye contact, shaking someone's hand. Like you need to make sure that you're doing that, because you can have that knowledge of your trade or your technical abilities, but if you can't talk to the people, whether it's customers or colleagues, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think that, one of the things that, and Pete and I have talked about this a lot on this show, that, a lot of students now are so tied to their cell phones, but they really use them not as a telephone where they're talking to people. They're texting, they're looking up information, they're on the internet and so forth. You would think with everyone having all these phones that having a conversation would be really kind of second nature to people. But the fact is that it's just the opposite. I've said I've worked with a lot of student interns over the years, and, I've said to them, oh, well, give so-and-so a call. Oh, well, I'll just text them or I'll send them an email. It's like, no, get on the phone and talk to them.
I'd rather call somebody because you can hear the tone in their voice.
Yes.
You can, they can hear your tone in your voice, and it seems like more of a personal connection than words coming across the screen.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I've said that, time and time again, when you text someone or when someone texts you, sometimes it's taken completely out of context in the wrong way because, just as you said, Brady, it's your tone. Whether it's a little sarcastic or whether it's very, very loving and thoughtful, empathetic and so forth. But sometimes that's hard to come across on a text message. And I can't tell you how many times, even sometimes with my husband, I'll text him something real quickly and he'll kind of get bent out of shape about it. And I'll say, well, what? And he said, well, you said blah, blah. And I said, well, that's not how I meant that. But, it comes across differently. If I had said it, and he said that, it's like, oh, well, if you had the way you say it that way, it's completely different. It puts a different spin on it. So all good. All right. So why did we choose Worcester? What was the deal about Worcester Polytech? What sold you?
Well, so WPI was kind of in the running among a few schools.
Okay.
But part of it was the swim program, and then part of it was just I got on campus, and I had done, because I swim for the YMCA in Holyoke.
Okay.
Because I actually live in South Hadley. Fun fact. Not sure if you knew that.
I you know what? Thank you for reminding me. I did know that. Pete mentioned that, but I forgot.
Yeah. So I swim over
That's
there,
right.
And so I was looking at swimming, and I had been there for meets, and I was really familiar with the campus.
Yep.
And I don't remember it, but my mom claims that when I was in 5th grade and I was at a swim meet at WPI, I said, Mom, I really want to go here.
There you go.
And you know what? I believe it. I probably did say that. So, that's kind of how I settled. Worcester's a nice, it's a good distance. It's drivable from here, but it's also I can kind of do my own thing out there, and and that's good. And a 20-minute walk to the train station gets me to Boston, so that's nice if I have a reason to do that.
Well,
so.
I highly recommend. I think that I used to teach at Springfield College, and I used to say to the students, you want to be far enough away from home so that mom and dad think twice about just dropping in. But you want to be close enough, because I went to school in Virginia and I was living in New Jersey at the time, and it was about a 7-hour drive. That was a little far, and I definitely was homesick. There was no doubt about it. Free to admit that on the radio. All right, Brady, I see our guest is walking in through the parking lot.
Well,
so
for some reason the door's locked, so I'm going to go let him in.
Okay, you let him in, and I will introduce him, and then we're going to do a little break and bring him in with his song, which is Call the Doctor by Diamond Temple. Our guest will be Dr. Akinele Lovelace. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back in a few.
Got this monkey on my back, got like nipping at my heels, turning on my wheels. What's this pain in my chest? No, I really don't want to gas. Appointment overdue. See, joint pain hollered when I woke up yesterday, and I can't remember if I took my meds today. It's alright, I will remember anyway. Rock it like a two-step, then call the doctor.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And behind the glass this morning is Brady LePage, who's doing an amazing job. I know you're a little stressed out over there, Brady, but you're doing great. You're doing fine. He's covering for Pete Coles this morning, and we appreciate you getting up with the birds to come down here and help us out this morning. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for your words of positivity. Much appreciated.
There you go. And my guest this morning is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. Dr. Lovelace is primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield. He joins us every month. I told Brady, Dr. Lovelace, that I said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about my guest. He's been on this show since we were officially at the college." So,
yeah,
do you know this is year 11? We just finished year 11. I see Dan Knappich and he'll say to me, "I can't believe you're still doing this."
It's amazing.
I know, it's so fun. So, in our topic today, I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's one, and we've talked about it before, but it's really important to revisit this. June is Men's Health Month. And normally, I go online and I get a little blurb about, whatever the awareness month is. And I started to do that and I said, why am I doing this? I read just a fabulous article in the Westfield News. So I want to talk a bit about Juanita Carnes. She is a nurse practitioner with 39 years of experience in hospital emergency departments and urgent care facilities. She served on the Westfield Board of Health for 30 years. She just retired from the Board of Health a couple of years ago. But she started writing a weekly article for the Westfield News during the pandemic. Really, I think the impetus was to just keep people informed, keep everyone calm, sort of best practices and so forth. Well, she has continued to write a weekly article. I give her so much credit because I'm a good writer and I like to write. I write our newsletter and so forth, but doing this every week is a lot. She wrote a fabulous article on men's health. So I'm going to just read some excerpts from that as our intro, and then I'm going to let you take it away. Healthier men make healthier families, which in turn make healthier and stronger communities. Although fitness is important, the health and strength of men is not found lifting heavy weights, but in cultivating boys' and men's emotional intelligence and fortitude. A strong arm and hand raised shouldn't ever cause someone to flinch, but should be a symbol of help and encouragement or a high five. Men's Health Month is recognized in June every year since passed through Congress and signed into law by President Bill Clinton on May 31st, 1994. Its focus supports awareness, prevention, education, and family engagement for the health and well-being of men and boys. This year's theme is Bring Empathy Back. Men fight battles we can't always see. The goal is to close the empathy gap through advocacy, awareness, and action. The empathy gap refers to the decreased funding and support for men's issues in physical and mental health. Men in this country die on average 6 years earlier than women due to preventable issues. Prostate and testicular cancer receive less funding and research. Men's suicide rates are higher. The percentage of perpetrators and victims of homicide is significantly higher in men. The suicide and substance abuse epidemic cries out for more effort to recognize undiagnosed depression and mental illness in men and boys. Some concerning data from 2023 include 15% of men are in poor health, only 28% meet physical activity guidelines, 39% are obese, 51% have high blood pressure, 20% have mental illness, and 5% have serious mental illness and suicidal thoughts. Leading causes of death are heart disease, cancer, and accidents. Men more often feel that discussing mental or emotional issues is a sign of weakness. Men's health initiatives this month deliver the message that real strength lies in facing mental problems and talking about them. Mental health is equally as important as physical health. Men are encouraged to take care of their physical and mental health by having their yearly physical exam and regular screenings. Take advantage of incentives your insurance may offer. So there you go. There's your intro. She covered a lot of ground, and that wasn't even the whole article.
That's amazing.
But she did a great job.
She did. And first and foremost, I'd like to extend a heartfelt wishes for a happy Father's Day, right?
Yes.
To all the fathers listening today, as a father myself, I deeply appreciate the privilege of the role and recognizing that not all men have the opportunity to experience such joy.
Yeah.
To those fortunate enough to embrace fatherhood, particularly my brother, my father, my friends and family, happy Father's Day. Men's health is of paramount importance to me, especially considering the critical role fathers play within the family structure. As a primary care physician, I frequently witness the repercussions faced by fathers and men who neglect their health in the pursuit of familial or family responsibilities and financial ambitions. Just this week, I consoled a spouse grappling with the new, likely terminal cancer diagnosis and offered comfort to a grieving girlfriend mourning a partner who passed away too soon from a potentially preventable disease. These experiences are profoundly heart-wrenching, as I remember their faces and names and can only provide support to those left with the memories of these men. As I age and confront my own physical challenges, I feel it is essential to emphasize the significance of men's health and awareness. Our daily roles, whether attending games, coaching, barbecuing, or orchestrating family vacations, are vital to our family's well-beings. To ensure a healthy existence as we grow older, we must prioritize caring our minds, bodies, and spiritual well-being, whatever that may entail for each listener. I have the honor of caring for families, witnessing new life while sometimes bidding farewell to the old. Throughout my career, one constant in these family dynamics has been the local physician. Recently, I had the opportunity to meet the child of my very first patient from when I began practicing here in Westfield. I could see the essence of my late patient's reflected in his daughter's eyes, and that poignant connection makes my work truly meaningful. For this, I am grateful. And so I did prepare remarks for this because I dealt with the emotion, and this men's health is important to me. For those who don't know, I am a man, but it is hard because for a lot of scenarios, sometimes it feels like it's too soon when certain issues come up that you feel are almost preventable, or if you have to know. And in my position, what tends to make this experience harder is that there is a lot of things left undone that could have been attended to when we talk about men's health. And so for all those men that are out there listening, I do encourage us to continue to, man up and get checked out because you need to know what's going on. Yeah. And the decisions that you're making now in regards to your health not only affect you, but they affect so many people. And as I sit in these rooms, I spent almost 2 to 3 hours yesterday with families, whether writing letters or speaking to them up close. And it had to do with the health of a man, and whether they're here now or not. The impact is felt. Yeah. So I'm glad we're talking about this topic today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Brady, are you good for a break? Okay. All right. I have to stick a little bit closer to the clock today because, Brady's a little bit less fluid or less flexible than Pete, just because he's new at what he's doing. So let's take a little break. And I think this is a poignant a song anyway. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to listen to the performer Dax sing the song To Be a Man. We'll be back.
I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Yeah, I know this life can really beat you down. You wanna scream, but you won't make a sound. Got so much weight that you've been holding, but won't show any emotion. As a man that goes unspoken, that we can't cry when life gets hard. Unconditional loves for women, children, and dogs. We know that we just have to play our parts, and don't nobody give a damn about our broken hearts. Yeah, as a man we gotta pave our way. Our only function is to work and slave. There's no respect for you if you ain't paid. You're disregarded as a human and you can't complain. And if you ever make it up and actually reach that place and find a woman that you love and give her your last name, you'll feel the things that you provide is only why she stays. And when you try to explain, you'll say, I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Don't give up, keep fighting. As a man, our sun is our horizon, and our father's actions play a role, and we end up like them. So they can't let us see them hurt, cause we'll embody what they do and start a generational curse. No wonder most men are so depressed, all the things that they can't express. They go to war, get thrown on the shelf, then go back to war with their mental health. Then grab that bottle and ask for help, try to pull themselves out of hell, then fall back down and then realize that they're gonna have to do it themselves. It's the circle of life. As a man you provide, they don't know what you're worth till the day that you die, and that's when they start crying. Then move on to a man to confide in. That's why we feel we can't hide ourselves. We don't expect you to understand. We just hope we can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and you don't care about what we know. It's not about how we feel, but what we provide inside that home. Inside that home. It's not about how we feel, but what we provide inside that home. Inside that home.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Saturdays were made for polka. Tune in to the Polka Jammer Network starting at 6 a.m. and Polka Hall of Famer Billy Bellina, Breakfast at BB at 8:30.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. We have Brady LePage behind the glass pushing all the buttons this morning. Thank you for getting up early, Brady, and helping us out and covering for Pete Coles.
Of course.
And my guest this morning is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates. And the topic, because June is Men's Health Month, so the topic is men's health, and there's a lot to talk about.
Agreed.
Where would you like to start?
Well, let's talk about imagining if we could gain, 5, maybe 10 more healthy years with our family as men.
Okay.
And not just more years, but better ones.
Yeah, quality.
With energy, purpose, and peace of mind. And I think that's the issue. When we look at the big picture, in the U.S., men die on average about 5 years earlier than women. Yeah. And that gap, it's not about genetics. Like, it's not that's not the case. It has more to do with prevention, awareness, and access to care. Mm-hmm. The top issues, you kind of touched on them briefly in that wonderful article. But heart disease, right? Heart disease is the number one killer of men. And blood pressure, right? So blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking, and lack of exercise. Mm-hmm. And those are things, I have to say, that we have ownership of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, and a lot of times I have men that'll come in and they'll say, well, doc, I've got a family, I've got a job, I've got all these things. I don't have time. There's not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
And I say, wait a minute, there's 24 hours in a day. What do you mean that there's no time for yourself in that way? You don't have 5 minutes? Mm-hmm. And I get a lot of excuses as to why those 5 minutes aren't a thing. And then sometimes they'll even have the audacity to tell me that they actually even have weights in their basement. They just don't have the mental fortitude to take themselves down into their basement. And maybe their basement is creepy. Maybe it's haunted. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This is Massachusetts. But I think that's the one thing that I think we could always turn to when it comes to what you're putting in your mouth.
Yeah.
And are you going outside for a walk or doing something, and is there some consistency to it? Then there's cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Prostate cancer affects 1 in 8 men. It's usually slow growing, but if it's caught early, this is a treatable thing.
Yeah.
And so it is frustrating sometimes when you're dealing in men's health, and a lot of times the concept is, well, I feel fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no reason for me to go see the doctor, right? And then diabetes, right? Diabetes is becoming a bigger issue. A lot of men are walking around with prediabetes and they don't know it. And they don't know it until the damage is already done. So I think a lot of times we need to move the needle when it comes to, well, I just feel fine, to, well, let me just make sure everything is okay, right? And then last but not least, mental health. And I think mental health is extremely important because when we start to look at the numbers for men in their 20s to 40s, suicide is a real thing.
Yeah.
And that's becoming more and more of an issue. And so I do think if we could just shift the thought from crisis mode to prevention, I think we'd be able to make some key steps here in men's health. Mm-hmm. Things that would be like, well, what do I do, doc? I mean, I don't have to go. Well, you're right. You don't have to necessarily come see me all the time, but I do think it's important to at least get your blood pressure checked in your 20s. Mm-hmm. I think getting your cholesterol and diabetes, or at least being screened for that around 35, is key, especially if you have risk factors. Prostate cancer. Some guys don't know and they're not quite sure, and they think I'm just going to stick my finger in their butt. And excuse me for saying that out loud, but that is the thing. But there's more to it, right? Yep. There are blood tests that we can do. There's other ways in which we can kind of figure out what's going on. Yes, is a rectal exam part of it? Yes, but it doesn't have to be. But there are ways in which we can screen just as much as we would screen for colon cancer.
Let me ask you something, doctor.
Talk to
me. What age? Because I know like with women, we start having your mammograms here, and what age should men start really focusing on prostate and?
So at age 50, for most men, it's age 50.
Okay.
If you're of African American descent, it could be 45. Or if you already have a strong family history. So
right.
if you have a first degree relative, so an uncle, your uncle, your father, even your brother, right? You'd probably want to start asking around 45.
Okay.
Colorectal cancer.
Yep.
Right. Colorectal cancer at 45. It's changed. And we've talked about this before, whatever test you can do.
Yeah.
Right. And so colonoscopy versus, Cologuard, unless you have really high risk, go ahead and just talk to your doc and go ahead and poop in the box. Mm-hmm. And get your screening test done. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And then mental health. So for depression screenings should be done every year. Every time you check in with your doc or your provider, they should be doing a depression screening on you where you just are hopefully being honest about where you're at
There you go. Bingo.
You
I
know?
think that's the difference between, physical health. We can do tests, we can do lab work, we can do blood work, and it's there. And mental health, in order for screenings to work, you have to be honest. And I think that it's the old, oh yeah, everything's fine. I'm good. No, I got it. I know I'm stressed out, but I'm good. I can handle it.
Yeah, I always worry sometimes when people say, well, Doc, let me be honest with you. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Have you not been honest up till this point?
You haven't been honest with me, right? So what are we doing here? What is this relationship about? But in my field, I don't necessarily always listen to the words, but I watch the body movement and the language, the other types of language that are coming across.
Yep.
I think that's the part of being in a relationship.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
When you have a partner, sometimes they could be the words that are coming out of their mouth. That might be one thing, but there's also other language cues, right? And I think that is the value of having a relationship with a primary care provider, is that even when you're saying, oh, no, I'm fine, but you don't look fine. And so you have someone that has genuine interest as to where you are, because maybe you guys have, you've talked about, your kids in soccer or your wife going through, a tough time and you feel like you have someone that you might be able to relate to in this circumstance, because you have that kind of equity, both emotionally, that will allow you to have that conversation. So I do think it's important to have a provider that you can talk to, and trust the fact that it won't always be happy-go-lucky. There might be a time where that provider really has to lean into their skill set, and really get after you. And it's okay, know, and I think that is a really important concept, because, stress, anxiety, depression, they don't make you weak. Yeah. Right. But you do need to talk about it, and we do need to be honest about how we're going to get to the next steps to getting healthy.
I'm just going to interject for a minute. I run a support group at the Senior Center, soon to start another one. We have the side-by-side support group that I've been running for 20 years. I started when I first got there. And, people drift in and out over the years and so forth. But one of the things that I've noticed over the last, I would say, 3 years probably, are the number. I used to have no men in that group at all, 0. Now that number continues to increase, especially men who are going through the grieving process.
Huge.
And it's interesting. I had a woman who came for the first time last month, and she was sharing with me after the group that she was nervous about saying anything because she didn't want to start to cry. She had lost her husband. I said to her, you know what? Every single person that was in this group today has cried. And she said, oh yeah, but you have men in here. And I said, and they have cried.
Yeah.
Each one of them. I said that's why we have tissue boxes all over the table. But I feel like that's encouraging, because I can remember a time, especially working with older men. Boy, you did not. I was listening to a song on the radio this morning, and in the back, you'd probably recognize the song. And in the background, there was a woman whispering, "Big boys don't cry, big boys don't cry." And I thought to myself, I listened to that song with a whole different mindset, because I thought that is so disturbing, but that is the message that we give the men in our world. It's like, big boys don't cry.
Yeah, agreed.
Suck it up.
Yeah, agreed. I think that, I can remember when my great grandfather died. That was like one of the first people that I kind of knew, and he died, and I started to cry, and my dad was like, "There's no crying here. Why are you crying?"
Yeah.
And I do think when it comes to manhood, right, or what does it mean to be a man, I do think there are different concepts and thoughts about what strength looks like.
Yeah.
And over time, that my same father told me, don't cry at that moment. He's like, there are places where you can have emotion, and there are times where you can do that. This is just not the time, right? And I do think emotions well placed you do need to understand how to do that, right? And I do think depending upon where you live, what it means to show strength, what it means to show perseverance, what it means to be the steady foundation for your family group, it does have some significance. But I think to your point, we're not taught about our emotional intelligence
right.
Beyond that,
Yeah.
right? And then, okay, well, if I'm not supposed to cry right now, when is a good time?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, when and where.
And then with that emotion, what is a positive way that I can work through this emotion?
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm struggling to just get over it, or maybe I'll never get over it. And then what do I do then, right?
Yeah.
I think we don't continue the conversation enough. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to cry. All right, Dad, I don't want to get any more trouble. I'll stop crying now. And then we just kind of never have the conversation again until maybe later on, maybe 20, 30 years. And that's
Yeah.
not okay.
Yeah.
So to your point, you're
Yeah.
right. We are putting that on our men and our young boys, but we're not really following up and
Right.
giving additional
Right.
instruction as to what we're supposed to do after that.
Right.
fact.
How do you channel that?
How do you channel
someplace
that?
else? Yeah.
Because then that affects our relationships with ourselves, with our spouses, and then how we treat our bodies going forward.
Sure, and our children as well. All right, let's take a break. It is 6:46. If you're just tuning in this morning, my guest is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, and the topic is men's health because June is Men's Health Awareness Month. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to listen to Brooks and Dunn singing Hard Workin' Man. We'll be back.
I'm a hard-working man. I wear a steel hard hat. I can ride rope, a hammer and paint, do things with my hands that most men can't. I can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. I'm getting really good at barely getting by. Got everything I own by the sweat of my brow. From my four-wheel drive to my cowboy boots, I owe it all to my blue-collar roots. Feel like I'm working overtime on a runaway train. I got to bust loose from this ball and chain. I'm a hard-working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land. And I'm burning my candle at both ends. About the only way to keep the fire going is to outrun the wind. Come Friday night, I like to party hard. I carry on with the Cadillac Cutie, spend my whole week's pay on some weekend beauty. Come Monday morning, I'm the first to arrive. I ain't nothing but business, y'all, from 9 to 5. I'm a hard-working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land. And I'm burning my candle at both ends. About the only way to keep the fire going is to outrun the wind. I can't wait to get up in the morning and do it all over again. Well, I'm a hard-living, hard-working man.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. Dr. Lovelace is a primary care physician here in Westfield with Family Medicine Associates right over on Route 20. And the topic today is men's health. And it's, there's a lot to this topic. I feel like the first song that we played, that song by Dax, To Be a Man, I think brings out so much of, what we're talking about here, because men's health, we talk about women's health, and it includes physical and it includes mental health and psychological and emotional. But sometimes I think for men, we forget about the emotional and psychological. We focus on the physical, prostate screenings, and that's super important. But there's a whole package to men as well. And I think this is an important a day and month to really bring awareness to that.
Yeah, men account for nearly 80% of suicides in the United States.
That's a huge statistic, and a really disturbing statistic.
And is the second leading cause of death in men ages 10 to 34. And once again, men are far less likely to seek mental health treatment due to stigma, social expectations, and lack of access. So, this is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
And I agree with your point when we, and if we're hammering home this emotional intelligence or this, mental health awareness part of it, I think it's key, because 10 to 34, that for a lot of us, that is our prime physical, that is your prime time as a male, both, physically for the most part.
Absolutely, of course.
And your opportunity to really work as hard as you potentially could work to become something. Those are those times. And if you're not right mentally, it's I'm not going to say it's a waste, but it's just opportunity loss.
Yeah, it absolutely opportunity lost. And if you're struggling with that through, as you said, sort of the years when you're supposed to be the most vibrant and energetic, and those are awesome years. And if those are a struggle for people, we need to know that, and we need to help them to address that.
Because, and the other part to that is, and why that's important, is that men are more likely to take risks with alcohol, drugs, and dangerous behaviors.
Yeah.
Right. That's just. I don't want to say it's based on testosterone, but that is a thing. Yeah. And that always is contributing to injury and early mortality. And what that means is that men are 3 to 4 more times likely than women to die from accidental injuries, including workplace accidents. Yeah. So there is something to be said about, although we as men don't necessarily have anything physically that needs to be done to us as we are going through our stages of developing, unlike our female counterparts, there's that mental health check-in when it comes to even the expectations of the role of what we're supposed to be doing in our life. I had a conversation just the other day with a young man who he's trying to become a doctor, but he's struggling because it's not going in the steps that it's kind of supposed to go, right? There is this kind of predetermined steps, I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do this. But what happens when that supposed to doesn't happen in the timeline that we've given ourselves that's not even real or accurate? How do we navigate that to redefining our direction? And I think that's a very important concept. And then the other thing that we know to be true is that when fathers prioritize their health, their children are more likely to eat healthy, stay active, and attend regular checkups. And we also know that men who are involved in their family's health also help shift long-term generational health outcomes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I can't emphasize, if it's not, if you don't want to do it for yourself and you feel like you're doing everything for your family, well, here's another example of why even taking care of your health will be so impactful to those that you care so dearly for.
Yeah, I've said ever since I became a mom, which was many years ago, 34 years ago, that it's really important to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Children learn from your example.
They're watching us.
They are watching us. And so, if you are the one who's getting out and taking a walk or exercising as a family, or, helping to make a salad together, or, whatever it is that you do. And, now I've got an almost 2-year-old granddaughter living with us, and my daughter's living with us. And, we have the yoga mats, and, she has hers and I have mine. And, she'll take it out and then she'll point to me like, okay, well, get yours. Let's go. We have a little book, and she'll open up the book. And we were doing it the day before yesterday. She opened up the book and I said, all right, well, you choose, what pose are we doing here? She's got it, and it's made for toddlers.
Yeah.
But I think that it sets the tone of, this is what happens when we're here. We exercise, we eat right. And, the same thing my daughter's saying to her, okay, well, you can't have that snack until you have to have some of this first. And, kids learn at a really young age. They're really smart, and they're sucking it all in. So I think it's super important for dads, moms, and grandparents, and everybody else.
And just one more thing I want to touch on. I grew up as a physician in a town of maybe no more than 18,000 people.
Okay.
But 80,000 head of cattle. So I lived in a very rural community. And I always just want to remind everyone that all of my people who are living out in really the middle of America for the most part, in a lot of rural areas, even west of here, right?
Sure.
Those men out there have a higher rate of smoking, heart disease, and suicide. I just want to make sure that we don't forget about our rural health centers that are out there.
Yes.
As access may become a little bit harder to get. There are, I still want to continue to reinforce that if you do have the time to come into town, and when you do come into town, always consider maybe making that appointment with that doc whenever you decide to come into town. Because I do think it's important as well for my people out there in those spaces where there might be just one stoplight, if none, in your town. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And thank you for bringing that up. Here in Western Massachusetts, of course, we have the hill towns. And we talk about that. I know at the senior center, and I'm so happy that I'm finding more and more people coming down from the hill towns to use the center to exercise. I was just talking to somebody yesterday who said, well, I live in Granville, and, I live in Huntington, and kudos to them for coming down. It's like, well, I'm making the trip once a week or twice a week to do whichever fitness class they want to do, and then have lunch, whatever it is. But I agree with you. I think that's super important. And it's hard to get doctors that want to practice out in those rural areas, or at this point, any health practitioner. So it is important. And my thing would be make your appointments in town, and then come on down, do your grocery shopping, run your errands, do whatever else you need. But definitely, get down here, because I think that's super important as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. What else you got for me? Anything? Well, yeah. You want to tie it in a little package? You got 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes. Well, 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all I need. 2 minutes. So, once again, we don't live in a vacuum, right? So men don't live in a vacuum. A lot of times we don't often seek care unless we're nudged. So to spouses, partners, sons, daughters, friends out there, please, your support matters in this. So always encourage the man in your life to do that. Encourage the men in your life to schedule that checkup. Ask how they're doing and listen. Sometimes the most life-saving thing you could do is say, I'm here for you. And men, remember, taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's how you stay strong for the people you love. So what are the takeaways? Get a checkup. Make one healthy change this week, whether it's food, exercise, or sleep. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Talk about mental health with someone you trust or with a professional. And remember that men's health isn't about fear, it's about power. So the power to take control of your future. And I think that's extremely important going forward. Yeah, I agree with you. Well said. And I think that for all of you women out there, I like your point, Dr. Akinyele, about, we need to be supportive. And I am one. And nail those guys down. When they have that appointment and they come back and you say, how did it go? I don't want to hear, it was okay. No. I want details. What are we looking at here? Show me lab work. What kind of results do we have? What's going on here? Because I think that's really important. Yeah, and it is, but it's a tough. It is. It's tough. It is. As a husband, right? Yeah. Even as a doctor who has to get a checkup, it is a very difficult thing to start to talk about your vulnerability. Yeah. Well, I'm this, but I'm not that, or this was elevated and this was not. Yep. And then you feel like there's going to be some type of penalty for having a bad report. And I do think just being honest, because that comes from those questions about bringing that information home to your wife or your spouse, is just really about that they care And I always
Absolutely,
encourage
yeah.
my guys to say, hey, listen, I know I've told you a lot today. If you need me to write something down so that you can have something to remember to report to your wife, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. So don't be afraid to just ask for a brief couple of sentences about what the key issues I should be dealing with when I go home, so I can give my loved ones some type of insight. Because what you don't want to do is force your spouse or your loved one to have to feel like they have to be in the conversation or in the room, especially, if you're in your 50s and you're a man. You don't necessarily need to have your wife in there.
Correct.
If you can really articulate what the conversation is about and making sure that they feel like they're in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for our female friends out there, the message that we want to give to the men in our lives is we want to be supportive. So how can we help you with whatever you're going through, just in terms of whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's physical, whether we need to make some lifestyle changes, let's do it together.
Agreed.
Because it's going to be best for all of us.
It takes a team.
Dr. Lovelace, thank you so much.
Always
it's been
a pleasure.
wonderful. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We'll take our top of the hour break and we'll be back. Go.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with Brady LePage, who is covering for Pete Coles. Brady's doing a fabulous job. I know he's a little stressed out in there, but you're doing great, Brady. So keep it up, my friend.
I'm getting calmer each time something goes right.
Yeah,
so we're doing well. We're doing well.
Yeah, Brady's biggest fear was that something would go radically wrong. And, Pete Coles, who's been doing this forever, just like, all right, well, I'll fix it. And, Tina just keep talking. And, of course, and believe me, Brady, I get it. I'll tell you a little story, Brady. We were up at the college, so this was many years ago, doing the show. And I get over to the college and I don't see Pete's car and everything's dark and, and so I get a text message from Pete to call him. This was, like at 5 of 6 or whatever time it was. And so it turns out that he was not going to be able to come in. He was sick. But he said, I'm going to walk you through. He said, and I had Kathy Tobin coming on from Bay State, the Bay State Foundation. And Kathy used to be a news reporter for it was either Channel 40 or Channel 22. And I was already nervous about that. And so then Pete had the maintainer open up the studio. And he had to walk me through pushing buttons. And I'm sitting where you are, like I'm behind the glass doing this piece of it. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And Pete's like, all right, you're going to push this and you're going to turn this. And I was literally like, okay, the red button next to the black button on the right-hand side. I had no idea, but I did it. 2 hours worth. I was such a wreck. So I get it. I know where you're coming from. All right, let me do a few announcements. My guest this morning, second hour, is going to be zooming in a few minutes. So we're going to do a few announcements while we wait for Denny to call in. I want to remind folks that the Diabetes Dialogue Support and Education Group meets at the Senior Center on the last Tuesday of the month. So they're going to be meeting on next Tuesday, June 24th, which is why I want to announce it today, because it's going to be the day before my show next week. They meet from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. This is for those with diabetes, those who have maybe been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, family members, or just people who are interested, because as the facilitator Jen Jafune points out, if you kind of follow sort of a diabetic lifestyle and a diabetic diet, you're going to be healthier all the way around, whether you have diabetes or not. But this month's topic is plant-based eating. So she's going to be talking about, we hear a lot of words thrown around, vegan and, all these other things, and gluten-free, dairy-free. And so she's going to talk a little bit about that and why some people either have to or are choosing more of a plant-based menu. So that will be Tuesday, June 24th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. And I also want to announce this will actually be in the July newsletter, but it's happening right at the beginning of the month. So I want to start making announcements now. If your grocery budget is tight, you may be eligible for SNAP benefits. And we talked about the SNAP benefits earlier in the show and how you can use those at the farmer's market. But earlier this month, we had a SNAP associate at the Westfield Council on Aging at the Senior Center. And he was helping people fill out SNAP applications, answering their questions. It was phenomenal. He was there all day long. It was so successful that we are doing it again in July. So this is going to be Wednesday, July 2nd. We're going to start taking appointments at 9 in the morning. You can call the Senior Center now if you would like to book an appointment. Again, this will be in the July newsletter, but we're trying to get the word out now because it's happening so early in the month. And the newsletter is only coming out next Saturday. So if you'd like to book an appointment to meet with the SNAP associate, his name is Lewis. We gave him his own little office over there, and he was fabulous. So again, he's going to be at the Senior Center on Wednesday, July 2nd. And he will start. We're booking the appointments for him, so you can call the Senior Center anytime between now and the 2nd. Make your appointment. He'll be there for the most part all day. So last time we booked appointments between 9 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon. So if you're interested, the income guidelines for a household size of 1. Your max gross monthly income would be $2,608, so $2,608 per month. That's your gross income. If it's a household size of 2, if you have 2 people living in the household, your max gross income would be $3,525, so $3,525. So if that's the most that you make, if you make under that, you are eligible for SNAP benefits. Come on down to the senior center. But again, you must have an appointment. So give us a call, 562-6435. Book your appointment, and Lewis will help you out. And, this is one of those things where if you're not particularly tech savvy or whatever, it's really nice to have somebody else doing all that for you. He'll do it right there while you're sitting, and he'll just be asking you the questions, and he'll be plugging the information into his laptop, and you should be good to go. All right, so that's good. My guest coming up is going to be Denny Aiken, and Denny Aikens is on the Pride Committee with me. So we're going to talk about some of the upcoming Pride events. We had one last night at the Senior Center that was fabulous. We did a family bingo night that was sponsored and hosted by Pride. We were a little concerned because of the weather. It was kind of rainy, but we had a full house. People had a blast. We really had a great time. It was a very eclectic group. We had some younger people. Of course, we had some of our senior regular bingo players and everybody in between. We had people from Pride. We had students from the Westfield Technical Academy that were helping out and volunteering. And it was just a great time. And we had 2 vans full of people from the Arbors Assisted Living, and we were so happy that they joined us. It was a big field trip for them, so they were happy to get out and about on a weeknight, and we just had a great time. So more great Pride events planned throughout the week, and Denny and I will be talking more about that. Brady, has Denny called in yet or no?
I do not see him.
You don't see him yet. Okay, all right, that's fine. So then in that case, I'm going to talk about the fact that June is National Dairy Month. So Dairy Month started out as a way to distribute extra milk during the warm months of summer. And this kind of started before people had a lot of refrigeration options. The commemoration was established in 1937, way back then, by grocer organizations sponsoring National Milk Month. By 1939, June became the official dairy month, and it's still celebrated that way today. Whether it's in coffee, cereal, or smoothies, adding one more serving of milk to your family's day can help ensure that they get the nutrients they need to build strong bones and teeth. Trusted for decades, dairy farm families pride themselves on producing wholesome dairy foods that help their families grow up strong and healthy. A few interesting facts about dairy foods and farming. Number 1, America's favorite ice cream flavor is vanilla. Chocolate is second. Now, I thought this was really interesting because, of course, we measure milk in, you buy a quart of milk, you buy a half a gallon, you buy a gallon. But that's not how farmers measure milk. They actually measure milk in pounds, not gallons. So 8.6 pounds of milk per gallon is the standard. So there you go. It takes about 10 pounds of milk, so that's like 80 gallons to make 1 pound of cheese, and just over 21 pounds to make a pound of butter. And dairy cows eat about 100 pounds of food every day and drink 25 to 50 gallons of water. They consume a lot of food and water. All right, here you go. Chew on these historical tidbits about milk and dairy. Home delivery of milk started in 1942 as a war conservation measure. Early cheese makers shaped Edam into balls so that they could roll them down the gangplanks of ships for export. And Little Miss Muffet's curds, remember Little Miss Muffet who sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey? So her curds and whey were an early version of cottage cheese. There you go. Who knew? Now you do. You know. Now you know. You do. You know. All right. So that is National Dairy Month. And next up, June is National Give a Bunch of Balloons Month. So every day in June, National Give a Bunch of Balloons Month brings joy to a child battling an illness or struggling with a life-altering diagnosis. When limitations, treatments, or hospital stays prevent children from the joys of childhood, their smiles fade. National Give a Bunch of Balloons Month encourages giving children we know with an illness something to smile about by bringing them a bunch of balloons. So what I love about balloons are that, if the child has severe allergies or they're undergoing certain treatments and they shouldn't be around, other certain foods or, whatever, balloons are, they're just fun and they're colorful and they're bright. So often days of treatments and restrictions associated with an illness are long and tiring. Being ill is no fun, especially for a child. A delightful bouquet of balloons brings energy to a room and delivers a smile to a child's face. While it may not be a cure, the balloons brighten their day and add a distraction from their mundane reality. So, if you know a child who is ill at home or spending time in the hospital, give him or her a bunch of brightly colored balloons. Find out their favorite color or their favorite cartoon character and include a message just for them. The smile you receive will be worth more than anything money can buy. So, happy National Give a Bunch of Balloons Month, which is June. All right.
Our guest is here.
Our guest is here.
He is in the Zoom waiting room.
That is perfect. So we are going to play a song. My guest this morning is Denny Akins. Denny and I are both on the board for Westfield Pride Inc. So we're going to talk about some Pride activities. Jenny's going to share a little bit about his own background. So we have to start this out. We're going to have some Pride songs this morning. We're going to start it out with Lady Gaga singing Born This Way.
This is a great song.
It is a great song. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back with Denny Akins in just a few.
It doesn't matter if you love him or capital H-I-M. Just put your paws up, 'cause you were born this way, baby. My mama told me when I was young, we're all born superstars. She rolled my hair, put my lipstick on, in a glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. There's nothing left to say. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause I make no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hurt yourself and regret, just love yourself instead. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Subway kid, rejoice the truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. A different law is not a sin, believe capital H-I-M. Hey, I love my life, I love this record, and me, I'm on it, roll by eyes. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause I make no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hurt yourself and regret, just love yourself instead. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way. Born this way, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Whether you're broke or evergreen, you're black, white, beige, chola descent, you're Lebanese, you're Orient. Whether life's disabilities left you outcast but leader teased, rejoice and love yourself today, 'cause baby, you were born this way. No matter gay, straight or bi, lesbian, transgender life, I'm on the right track, baby. this way. Same DNA. But born this way.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Brady LePage is behind the glass, pushing the buttons and doing all the technical stuff. And we were both rocking out to Lady Gaga over there. So, Brady, I could see your head bopping around. And it's so fun because I do that all the time. I've been doing that ever since I've been doing this show. When I play rock out songs, I love it. I'm over here dancing. Nobody can see me. So, my guest this morning is Denny Akins. Denny is a good friend, and we've been working together with Westfield Pride for a number of years. So welcome, Denny, to my show. It's exciting to have you on.
Well, thank you so much. And what a way to wake up.
I know, right? To Lady Gaga. I know.
I mean, I'm sorry, but she's just such fun to listen to.
She is. Absolutely. Yeah. But you know, Denny,
good morning, Brady.
Good morning.
I purposely chose that song because I really want you, as a member of the gay community, to talk about the fact that for how many years did we hear people say, well, this is a lifestyle that they chose. So Lady Gaga's song is, no, we were born this way. So Denny, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then bring us up to speed as to how you got involved with Pride.
Of course, I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you so much for having me. This being Pride Month, it's especially important to talk to people and let them know some of the fallacies that exist and have existed for a long time. Even though most people nowadays, without a question, particularly here in Westfield, I think people are very knowledgeable and very fair. We haven't had too many problems with people getting along in Westfield. There are a few. I have friends who were discriminated against blatantly, were threatened with anonymous email, with an anonymous mail, things like that. But that's rare in Westfield, and we're very appreciative of that. So, first of all, it used to fascinate me, even as a young person, when I was terribly confused. I was born and raised in Westfield. I was born in 1951. I was the youngest of 5 children. To very Catholic and devout parents, but they were very. But I also I was very fortunate to have born in a family with parents who were very fair-minded. I remember many times my mom talking about the church and say, "Well, you always have you're the decider of your own morals." Yeah. And even though they say you can never do this, you can't do that, people can't be this way, that way, they said, they're men and they do the best they can. She was way beyond her years.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And she lived to 104, so good living, I guess. Yes. So we were blessed with great parents, and I will talk more later about living in Westfield as a person who was gay before it was okay to be gay.
Right.
And sometimes I wonder how even I made it through it. And I'm a very strong individual. So I can understand people that don't survive, don't make it through it. We know the suicide rates are high amongst teenagers who are in the LGBT spectrum, the range. And the rainbow, but we're working hard to get that number down. And one of the most important reasons we have pride is to let them know that as things are going to get better, that we are here for them, that their community is there for them.
Yeah.
That does not mean every individual is going to agree. People still believe in sometimes that it's a lifestyle choice. I can promise you, and many people know me in Westfield. I was, like I said, I'm a native. This is no choice.
Yeah.
First of all, it used to fascinate me, like, why would people feel that someone would choose such a difficult lifestyle?
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm speaking of back then. I don't personally necessarily think it's a difficult lifestyle today, but it is today if you're trans.
Sure.
So it just doesn't make sense. So I think it's again fear of the unknown, and we know today that there are some politicians who will try to demonize not just the gay community, but pick and choose who they want to demonize and try to convince people that they're somehow other than.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the damaging part. But growing up in Westfield, I had a wonderful childhood. By the time I reached, puberty and the age where I was starting to think about such things, I knew already by that time I was not the same as everyone else. There was something unique about me, and this, I think most people of my generation, I'll be 74 this year. Most people of my generation experienced the same thing. Unless you were lucky enough, or fortunate enough to be born in Chicago or New York City or LA, where there were groups where you could possibly get down there and try to identify with that.
Yeah.
But there was no one that I knew in Westfield, not a single person. There was not a single demonstration of a person like that on TV or in the movies.
Right,
The few that were very negatively portrayed.
Right.
Either they were very sick or they were murderers.
Right.
They were something deviant, which is, and so I truly feel now, and the little bit I did know made me think there's really seriously something wrong with me.
Sure.
Because I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I love sports.
Yes. Right.
I don't ever plan to murder anyone. I don't have interest in wearing dresses.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very, for me, a very dark and confusing time, but I'm lucky that I had a loving family to go home to.
Yeah.
But I still didn't feel I could come out.
Yes. Yeah.
It was dark. It was a dark time. High school, I was Catholic. I went to Catholic high school. I went to Catholic college, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity. I did talk to a counselor finally when I was at Providence College in Rhode Island, Catholic college, Dominican actually, and he just said, "No, you can't do that. You can't be that." And I'll never forget that.
Oh my God! Yeah.
This is. Yeah. So,
but they were different times, and I think
they were very different.
Yeah,
times.
And that's one of the reasons, Denny, that I wanted you on the show is because you are older, and you lived through a time when you were in high school, they didn't have gay straight alliance organizations, after school groups that you could, there was, and the interesting thing is, of course, you were not the only gay man that went to a Catholic high school at that time, except that everybody was in the closet. So, everybody was sort of in fear, and especially in that environment. I mean, hey, listen, I grew up in a very Catholic environment as well, so I get it.
Yeah. It's amazing. And what concerns me today is that, during that period of time, the hardest thing of all was you couldn't really reconcile what you were.
Yeah.
Because there was no base or nothing to reflect back to you. But the hardest thing was when, a sexual awakening happens, and you actually feel genuine feelings for some people.
Yep.
And you have to just kill them.
Yeah.
Or in my case, women would feel attracted to me.
Yep.
And desperate to want to fit in,
Yeah.
you would have to lie.
Yes.
So now on top of all the other negatives, you're now telling yourself you're a liar.
Yeah.
And you're misrepresenting who you are, even though you don't know who you are.
Right.
I wouldn't know how to represent that.
Yeah.
So it was, I understand why people get into a black hole.
Sure.
And I spent a lot of time by myself in dark places back then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, my professional life. I mean, I was a teacher and a school administrator. Eventually I started working for, after I got my master's degree, I was offered a job to work for the city of Springfield, Mayor DeMauro, and Barbara Garvey, who was the commissioner for community and cultural affairs, offered me a job. But I made up my mind that day when they offered me that job that I could only take it if I marched into his office and told him who I was.
Wow. How old were you at that time, Denny? About?
I was 26 years old.
So I'm thinking this was 70 something, 80
yeah,
something,
I got
right
my
around there?
master's in 79.
Okay, yep, so right around, Wow.
And I was surprised because, and that's just, I guess, fortunately, I'm me now. I was me, and I was me then, and I just found out. But Teddy DeMauro, who was such a wonderful man, he sat behind his desk and he listened, and I was terrified, of course.
Oh my gosh, I'm just amazed that you even did that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't live like I lived.
Yeah,
and
good for you.
In a school, being a teacher was one thing, but being a school administrator where I'm working with parents all the time.
Yeah.
I was a director of special education, so I had to work with doctors and everything. I just couldn't. I just felt like if something happened and it came out.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want my work or the kids I was trying to help to be affected. I couldn't deal. I couldn't sleep. It was awful. So when I got this opportunity, I said I can't keep doing that. What if his policies,
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know where I got the gumption. But anyway,
but you did.
Yeah, I did, and I'm proud of that. So Teddy's response was, after I told him and I explained to him why I felt I had to tell him, he said he pulled back into his desk. He was behind his desk with his hands behind his head. And Teddy was a little Italian guy, but very, very smart lawyer. And he said, Dennis, he said, you were the first person ever to come out to me. And he said, I'm amazed and I am happy that you did that. And that was it. That was our conversation.
Okay.
And felt like a weight was off my shoulders.
Oh my God, you must. I can feel it now in myself. It's like, oh my God, you must have just been able to say, I can breathe, I can go to work, and my boss knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
I had come out to my mom before that, about a year before that, and my dad had passed. But her response, was, it was a nothing burger. She never said that she knew, or she might have, I don't know, but she just said, look, it doesn't matter who you love, is what her response was. And who you love is between you and God. And that was it. And then it was fortuitous because I also have another family member. My sister came out. My sister, who was married to a Marine and had 4 children, came out a few years later.
Okay.
And I didn't even know about her. That's how private.
Yeah, that's how private everybody was. Like brother and sister didn't even know, never mind. Yeah, that's amazing.
I walked into the only place we could socialize then there was a gay bar in Springfield at one point, and she was literally in the middle. My sister's a wonderful, cute, funny, charming person. I walked into this one room and she was literally sitting in the center of 6 of my friends. And it didn't compute.
Yeah.
Well, the reason they didn't realize is because she was still married. Her husband had died. He was a Vietnam vet.
Okay.
And so they didn't know her. She was
Sure.
under her married name.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I finally got.
So that's how you found out about your sister? You ran into her in a bar?
We both just started crying. It's like, it was so funny,
Now, at that point, did she know about you?
No.
No, because you came out to your mom, but not to necessarily to any other members of your family.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us this morning, folks, my guest is Denny Akins. Denny and I both serve on the Pride. It's not really a committee anymore. Now it's Pride Inc.
No.
It's an organization. So we serve on the Pride organization for Westfield Pride. We're going to take a short break. Brady, were you able to get the song queued up? Or?
I could not find the Sam Smith song.
Okay.
But I did find something that I think is a little peppy, a little Katy Perry firework.
Okay, all right, that's fine. That was yep, that's fine. All right.
All right.
So
Yeah.
you are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, one blow from caving in? Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screens, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you? 'Cause there's a spark in you. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Space, your original cannot be replaced. If you only knew what the future holds, after a hurricane comes a rainbow. Maybe a reason why all the doors are closed, so you could open one that leads you to the perfect road. Like a lightning bolt, your heart will glow, and when it's time you'll know. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you work. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. It's always been inside of you, you, you. And now it's time to let it through. 'Cause baby, you're a firework. Come on, show 'em what you worth. Make 'em go, as you shoot across the sky. Baby, you're a firework. Come on, let your colors burst. Make 'em go, you're gonna leave 'em all in even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. Boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m. Go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:41. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Brady LePage is behind the glass this morning, filling in for Pete Cole. So good morning again, Brady. You're doing a great job.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, we've already gone with a plan B, and that was fine. And we're actually going to go with a plan C for our next. So I think, Brady, what we'll do is we're going to go through, and then we'll save our last song for just a couple minutes before 8.
Okay.
Okay, that'll work out better, and that'll give Denny about a 15-minute block. My guest this morning is Denny Akins. Denny and I serve on the Westfield Pride organization together. So welcome again, Denny, and thank you for being so open and sharing, your journey and some of the struggles and some of the challenges, particularly back in the 1970s and 1980s and 1960s. I mean, it was just there were I think fewer people who were accepting of those who were different in any way, but particularly those in the gay community. So Denny, I want to talk a little bit about those older adults who are gay, lesbian, bi, trans, whatever, and particularly, some people who maybe never came out. I mean, who have really been in the closet for a long time or came out to family and friends and, didn't have the same experience that you had, because not all moms and dads were accepting and loving, and not all bosses were like, hey, thank you for telling me. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I certainly, I have thousands upon thousands of friends who are in the community. I met them over my lifetime. I also have thousands of unbelievably wonderful straight friends like you, Tina. But many people in that era who were either thrown out of their homes or asked to leave, as tragic as that is, many of those people had no choice, and they migrated to places where there were gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They migrated to New York City or Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta, and they found their chosen family. Others who didn't have the courage or the strength to try to migrate had darker stories. There's a lot of turning, like so many situations, like soldiers who go through PTSD coming back from war. They turn to alcohol or drugs or worse to find a lessening of their personal torture. From experiences that were difficult. However, I do think that there's a campaign that we have in our community called It Gets Better. That as people grow and as they experience these type of personal traumas, whether they're small or large, there's a strength that grows in them. And that strength is what leads people to improve their own lives. Heartache, people, straight people, anyone who loses a spouse, as awful as that is, they reach a crossroads where they have to make a decision. Do I stay in this terrible sorrow, or do I try to breathe and move myself forward and open myself up to love to experience to opportunity. And that in those days, that was the same choice that we had.
Okay.
And did I answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does, and it triggered several other thoughts that I had. Well, for one thing, you have used the expression, Denny, and I love this expression. But you've used the expression that you're living your authentic life.
Yes.
And I love that word authenticity because. But I'm sure that it's a journey to get there. Not everybody gets there.
No.
It's interesting too. I think I remember there were two women who I used to see them in church all the time. And for a long time, I thought they were sisters. And, they lived together in this small, beautiful little tidy house. And this was back in the late 60s, early 70s, and they always sat in the same place in church and so forth. I think I know now that they were a couple, certainly not married. That was way before their time, and nobody really asked. There were no questions. They were very kind, and they just, and then that started to make me wonder. Well, how many others? And it was so funny. I remember having this conversation with a family member, and this was probably. I'm trying to figure out the date. Like a sort of the dating of this. So it must have been around the 80s, maybe 80s, 90s. And I remember this older family member of mine saying, "Well, I don't know how we got in the discussion about gays and lesbians, and this person said it was a female, and she said, well, I think I would be okay with knowing somebody who's gay, but I don't know anybody who's gay." And I said, "Well, yeah, you do." And I said, "Yeah, you do." And she said, "No, I don't know anyone who's gay." And I said, "You do, but you don't know that you know people who are gay." And she was very insistent. And so I finally said, "Let me ask you a question. You were at my wedding." This is a family member. She said, "Of course I was at your wedding." I said, "Well, there were 4 people who sang at my wedding." So it was like this was back in the 80s. It was like a folk group. I said, 3 of them were lesbians. And she said, "What?" And I said, "They're all." That's what I said. And I said, "They're all people that you knew. They're all people that you like," because they were friends with Gary and me, my husband and me. She was absolutely shocked. "What?" I said, "Yep." There were 3 women and 1 man. I said the only straight one was the guy. I said, "So you do?" And I said, "My point is we all know people." And once I said to her, "These are people that you know," suddenly it became, "Oh, well, they're great people. Hello." You got to get there. The light bulb goes off, but you got to get there. Yeah.
When I was mentioning earlier how sometimes heartache or tragedy put you in a position where you have to either get stronger or fall by the wayside. It's kind of nature.
Yes.
One of the things that, in my opinion, catapulted the gay rights movement and of course Stonewall. I'm not
sure, of course,
that event or the Mattachine Society before that, but one of the worst tragedies of my life and was the AIDS epidemic.
Yes,
because we lost so many friends.
Yeah,
but however, as bad as that was, it also made so many people realize people were forced to come out to their families. They were sick.
Yes.
And there was horror stories there.
Sure.
But there were also incredible stories of love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And what were you thinking? We would always love you.
Yes. Yeah.
That is like a light switch that through all the darkness and all the death and all the pain and suffering and all the upset with the demonstrations and demanding medical rights and things, and spouses being kicked out of partners being kicked out of their house, out of their partners' hospital rooms.
Hospital rooms, yeah.
There were so many examples of families that just embraced and came to the aid, and then like a light switch went off, and that across the country, families were starting to realize this can't keep up like this,
Yeah.
And people started, if my son is that way, if my daughter was that way, and I didn't know her, what about their children? And so things started to change here.
Yeah.
Quietly.
Yep. I think it's
so
always
good-
I think it's always different, Denny, when it's personalized. You know, when you can talk about like a group of people in, you know, whatever that group is, whatever sort of minority group that is, you know, it's sort of out there. But when it's personalized, and I have found this myself with my seniors, you know, some of them have been pretty unaccepting until a grandchild comes out. And suddenly, when you find out, well, my grandchild who is in high school, college, or beyond is gay or lesbian or trans or whatever they are, you know, suddenly it becomes, it's very different. Because why? Because it's the person first. And I taught in the rehab department at Springfield College. We used to talk a lot about person first language. It's not the blind man. It's the man who is blind or the man who has a vision loss. He's a man first or a woman first, not the disability. The disability doesn't come first. So it's not, the gay guy. It's like, well, this the man, he is gay, she is lesbian, whatever they are. And I think that is the point of, for a grandparent or a parent who, kind of finds this out. It's like, well, but this is my grandchild. This is my child. And I know who I love and who is smart and athletic and funny and all of these wonderful things. And they happen to be, gay or lesbian or whatever they are. Yep. So I think that is, for me, the changing. And I agree with you, Denny. I think with the AIDS epidemic, suddenly there were faces to these people who we knew and loved. And so why, it puts a whole different spin on it, in my opinion.
And I want to say a few words, even though we don't have a large population of trans people in Westfield, I just want to speak to our brothers and sisters who are trans, because traditionally, and of course, people come to us all the time. They come to gay men and lesbian women and ask questions about the ones who are truly interested. Mm-hmm. And they hear this stuff on the news about trans people and demand kids getting surgery and stuff like that, which is just not true.
Right.
But yes, young people who are suicidal because they can't deal with the fact that they feel they were born in the
wrong body. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Are they with the aid of their parents and their psychiatrists and doctors? Are they offered hormone treatment? Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm. But they're trying to deal with a desperate situation. Mm-hmm. They don't want to lose that child. But generally speaking, I have to say, and of course, this is difficult times. Very difficult. Men kind of got loud and went through AIDS and kind of demanded some rights, and then worked with the communities to kind of help change things. And people like Justice John Graney from Westfield were able to have marriages. Of which I have an incredible marriage, thanks to my beautiful husband. But the trans people I know, which even aren't that many, people would come to us and ask questions. Well, we're not specialists on each other either.
Right,
we just we're trying to learn as we go.
Right.
But trans people, as a rule, aren't interested in demanding rights, and they want to just authentic. That's where authenticity ties in. They want to just live authentically and quietly. Mm-hmm. They just, and they're doing the best they can. And this is the advocacy against them today in this country is doubly damaging, because this is not a group that's going to go out and say, this is who I am and I demand. When they go into a restroom of what they feel they are, they have no interest whatsoever in impeding anyone else experience. Let me tell you, and this is, for what it's worth, I would trust my mother and sister in a bathroom with trans women far more than I would anyone else, because they also will be the first to step up and defend other people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's important to not just look at the thing you don't understand and say, well, it can't be right. Mm-hmm. It's more important to realize they're just human beings trying to live their life. We have people in Westfield, whose parents in Westfield, who have trans children, and it's hard enough for them to make that transition themselves.
Correct.
But they all do it.
Yeah.
And they are fierce defenders of their children.
Yeah.
Because they see the calm, and they see these people aren't trying to put on a show.
Right.
This is their
right.
life.
They're just trying to be
And
themselves.
many of them end up leaving the country because they don't want to live here on, in a place they feel threatened.
Denny, do you we only have a few minutes, but I'm just curious, and I know you've traveled a lot. Do you is our country less? I mean, obviously we're less tolerant right now, but just say over the last 20 years or so, what are the countries that are more tolerant than us, than the United States?
Well, are you speaking right now? Because I do want to say that I've always loved our country, and there's and my reasons are personal.
Sure.
The rest of the world looks to the United States, even in terms of the gay rights movement.
Okay.
There are countries still today that are so envious. I mean, there are gay people in Africa and in Russia.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these nations that look at us, and we have a response. When I say we, I mean
the community.
LGBT community has a responsibility to not forget these countries, because those brothers and sisters of ours are facing terrible atrocities.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be legally killed.
Yeah.
In some country, well, I know one country in Africa, and that was actually those laws were actually helped along by Americans who so disagree with what has happened here.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened here? I'm a good citizen.
Yeah.
I stop at red lights. I pay my taxes.
Right.
I'm still very, very religious in my spiritual self. There's just, I mean, it's a problem that some people can't get over, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Mm-hmm.
Scientists are still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yes, to answer your question, Tina, right now, certainly there are many countries in Europe, particularly Northern Europe, like Finland, Sweden, Norway, that are much more accepting of trans people.
Okay.
But they shouldn't have to leave their country.
No, I totally agree.
Families, their homes, their communities.
Right.
But yes, so we can look to them for guidance.
Yeah, that was kind of, I was just more curious than anything.
Of course.
We just have a few minutes left, Denny, so I just want to just remind folks of some of the things that are happening. This is Pride Week here in Westfield. We've concentrated it into a week. Brady and I were talking about it earlier before, but we had a great showing at our family bingo night last night. Barbara Martone, our volunteer extraordinaire from the senior center, was helping out, and she said when it was all done, she said, Tina, I think people had a blast, and I think they did too. So that was a lot of fun, but we have other things planned. So today there's an educational program that's happening down at WOW at 11 o'clock, especially targeted to those who run businesses on how to make it more friendly for all. More welcoming for all. Tomorrow night, Thursday, there's kind of a thing happening at Hutke's over there. So that and
comedy night.
And then Friday morning at the Senior Center, beginning at 9 o'clock, we're showing the film Rustin, about Bayard Rustin, and it's a film and discussion. It is open to the public. I'm looking for my flyer here. I had so many flyers. Yeah. So, and we're asking people to sign up, but don't worry about it. If you didn't, here it is. If you didn't sign up, just come. It's Friday, June 20th, 9 a.m. at the Senior Center. You're going to watch the film and have a follow-up discussion. We'll have some light refreshments for you. And then Friday, so that's Friday afternoon. That's Friday morning. And then is there anything? That's it, right? And then Saturday is the big Art with Pride. There's all kinds of stuff happening. They're closing off Elm Street. It's pretty much, I think, from 10 to 7 if you do the whole thing.
Yep.
All kinds of things for children and family earlier on. We appreciate Artworks working with the Pride group on this. I'm really hopeful I can bring my granddaughter, because I said to my daughter, there's going to be so many colors there. And, which is just, little kids, they love colors. And I know there's a special show at 11 o'clock really targeted for children. And then there's a tea dance later on. So that starts from 4 to 7. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then Sunday, we have a free concert at the Senior Center, which is Doo Up meets Motown. Fabulous performers. Nice. It's free. It's open to the public 2 to 3 in the afternoon at the Senior Center. And then wraps up on Sunday night with the ecumenical service at the Methodist Church at 6 o'clock. But there are actually, I think, 5 of the clergy from the area that have put this together. So they're holding it at the Methodist Church because, as Reverend Hess said, her church is not air conditioned, so we need to hold it at the Methodist Church in case it's really hot, which it was one year. I remember it was really warm and it was beautiful in there.
She's a wonderful person.
So yeah, she is. And she was at bingo last night. So we had a great time. Denny, I want to thank you. I know you've got another appointment. It's 8:01 and we all have to run, but happy Pride Week. Thank you for sharing your personal story with us.
Thank you for being such a great ally, Tina. You're amazing. I want to congratulate Brady on his graduation. He's got a great career. What a wonderful young man.
And Brady actually asked me to remind our viewers, for those of you who were either at the flag raising ceremony or if you'd like to see it, it will be up on YouTube on the city website later on today. Yes. And also on the front page of today's Westfield News is the flag raising. There's a picture of Councilor Mello and Justice Graney, and then there are some other pictures of the mayor and me speaking if you open it up and read the article. So lots happening in Westfield for Pride Week. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC cable channel 15. I'll be back next week.